Hello, welcome to Live Well. My name is Katie Burns, and we are here today with owner of Omni Rehab, Travis Smith. And he's going to talk with us today about physical recovery, what it takes to make it through various issues that we may have physically, and also rehabbing after issues that arise in our life, or if we hit a bump in the road and injure ourselves. So thank you for joining us today. Travis, tell us a little bit about your services here. You have a location in Pikeville and a location in Dunlap.
That's right, Katie. Thank you for having me on here today. But we're, like you said, I own Omni Rehab. I have a business partner, Tommy Halpert, who runs the Dunlap office for me.
Okay.
And I'm up here at the hospital in Pikeville, Neurological Bledsoe mostly. We started the business about 15 or 16 years ago, trying to provide a service that we felt like was lacking in the Valley, a high-level outpatient orthopedic recovery center. We since have evolved into inpatient rehab through the hospital here in Pikeville. We have added in cardiac and pulmonary rehab. During that whole time, we've covered with athletic training on the sidelines with all the sports teams, with Bledsoe and Sequatchie County high schools.
Right. You're usually on the football field at the high school games.
Yes, for many years now. I think I've been there longer than any of the coaches.
Oh, goodness. Well, I know they certainly are grateful that you're there to take care of our players.
Well, we enjoy that a whole lot, and we volunteer our services in that, but it has not gone by for naught, because the people have been so grateful to that, and we've it has allowed us to earn the trust of the folks, and they see that we're here as part of the community and trying to help the young folks, and so it's been very beneficial for us.
And in working with the youth, you actually have your own inspiring story to share with them if they have an injury or tear their ACL. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, because it kind of leads into how you got into this field? Well,
yeah, Katie, I don't mind at all. Anytime you sustain an injury, there is an element of a psychological aspect to it. You have plans, and when you have a serious injury, it always puts a damper on those plans, changes them.
Yeah.
I heard a guy say one time, life is what happens while you're making other plans, and that's what happened to me. And I have to take this opportunity to say happy anniversary to my wife of 20 years as of this June, and
Miss Elizabeth.
But when I had planned on going into the Army out of high school, and when my senior year, we were playing in the state soccer tournament, and I tore my ACL, a common injury that you'll hear on the sports channels talking about.
Oh yeah.
Hurt my knee, had to have surgery, had to have some screws in my knee, and completely changed my focus, because when I talked to the recruiters after the surgery, they said that because at that time it was peacetime, and they wouldn't take me in the Army after that.
How devastating!
Oh yeah, it really changed my world. I had to try to figure something else out, and I was devastated. I thought, why would this be happening? And what I try to encourage our athletes now who go through this is, I try to tell them the story, and I say, after that surgery, I came home, and a young lady who was there watching the game brought me a plate of cookies, and 20 years later, I'm still eating those cookies.
Oh.
And so, but that was a great thing. And then I was laying in physical therapy, after my after my surgery, and I thought, what am I going to do now? And so then it led to the next most logical question.
Right.
The therapist that I was working with, I said, what does it take to do this? What what is this? And so it led into that discussion.
And I think, for people watching this, when something negative happens in your life, you can look to God or look to the circumstances and say, what good can come from this? And I think that's part of keeping that positive attitude and trying to be your best self no matter what happens. And that's a fine example of just being open to new things, given that what you thought didn't really happen, didn't work out.
Well, there's somebody I'm going to introduce you to in a little while.
Okay, yeah.
I'm
so excited.
I'm going to save that surprise, but I'm going to introduce you to them in a minute.
Okay.
That will also be a good example of that as well.
All right, well there's some common questions that people want to know when they have an injury or something happens, is how can they come and see you? I mean, you are very revered in this community, and do they need to go to a doctor first? What steps do they need to take?
Well, yes. In order for insurance to pay for your physical therapy, you have to have a referral from a physician.
Okay.
Now it can be your family doctor. It can be an orthopedic doctor or a neurological. Whatever kind of problem you've had. You can a specialist or your family practice can get that referral.
Can refer over here so that insurance takes care of it.
Right.
And what kinds of services, beyond cardiac and pulmonary, you do the what levels of physical recovery? Like how to what extent do you go with someone that has had an injury? They're here in the hospital and they move over here. Is that how it works?
Yes. Depending on
the level is what I'm trying to go for.
Right. I think so, and I think we deal a lot with neurological problems.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So people who've had strokes, people who've had brain injuries, spinal cord injuries, damage to the peripheral nervous system. We've had people who've gotten cut by glass or a saw or something like that in their arms.
Okay.
We have occupational therapy here to help them with the aspects of their fine motor skills, and being able to button things and operate their keys and those kinds of things. But some people are just as simple as they've had some arthritic knee trouble, some pain in their knees or their back, shoulders, and we're able to see them on an outpatient basis. But like you referred to a second ago, a lot of times we'll get people who come here for their inpatient rehab in the hospital.
Yeah.
And then as they progress along, we see them as an outpatient then.
Okay.
And as and progress them all along until we release them and they're back to full activity. Okay.
And what's amazing is that can happen for a lot of people, and sometimes people get down and think they can't recover, or you guys are sitting at home today thinking, I have knee issues and that's preventing me from exercising.
Right.
And so talk a little bit about the mental state that you have to overcome that and not let that hinder your activity level.
Well, people have different fears, Katie. They have, and for example, the fear of falling. People who have fallen and hurt their knee.
Yeah.
So they don't want to get up and be as active because it's painful, and they have that fear. But I always tell them, there are realistic fears and then there's unrealistic fears.
Yes.
And falling is a realistic fear. People get injured all the time. So what we try to do in physical therapy is to build that confidence level, so that they're able to address those fears appropriately, and through different series of activities, we start to show them that they can do it, and that their activity level can continue to increase and they can be safe. As far as pain goes, as we start to first of all, we have to evaluate you.
Because a lot of times people have fear of pain.
Oh, right, absolutely, and that's what's one of your brain's primary jobs is to protect you.
Yeah.
And when it senses pain, that's a message directly to the brain. It says stop. Pull your hand back, quit.
Right. Right.
And that's a safety mechanism. It's important. But sometimes, the pain goes beyond where it becomes a safety issue, and it can start to hinder us. And so we have to evaluate you and figure out what it is that we think is causing that pain. Is it a mechanical issue? Is your range of motion not where it needs to be, so that the joint is being stressed differently than it's designed to? Are your muscle? Is there a muscle imbalance so that the muscles that straighten your knee may be stronger than the muscles that bend your knee, and it pulls the joint alignment off. And those sorts of things are all things we have to look at when we're developing a plan for you on how we're going to address that pain.
Yeah. And another thing is obviously patients trust you, and that's part of it, is trusting the therapist and giving them an opportunity to do to do their gift and to share their talent, and to let them help you.
Well, and it's not an easy thing. I mean, people who know me very well, family members or whatever, who know me and trust me under normal circumstances, the first time we take them out of a sling when they've had a surgery on a massive rotator cuff repaired, or a shoulder replacement, or something like that, and I have to tell them, relax and let me have your arm.
No.
That's a hard thing to do.
It is
and
hard.
So it's very challenging. It's not as easy as you'd even think. It's very challenging. But just with time and patience, we start to chop away at that, and you end up being they end up relaxing.
Right, and having patience is another good point for attempting to do anything new in life, is to be patient with yourself and just take it just a little bit, as we did in our first show.
Yeah, I was telling somebody today, I said, that's wonderful, you did this with your arm, and they said, oh, but I still can't get my shirt on. And I told them, I said, you've got to celebrate the little milestones along the way.
Right.
The only thing that's going to make you happy is the final result. You're going to get fatigued and burn out before you get there.
And that focusing on the negative, what you can't do.
Right.
A lot of my cardiac patients in Chattanooga are very discouraged and are going through the stages of grief because they're grieving the loss of their health. They could do this and now they can't. And they have to get to that acceptance stage of, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take the necessary steps to, get myself back in shape.
Well, and it changes their self-esteem. They look at themselves differently. He doesn't feel like he's the gentleman doesn't feel like he's the provider, the taking care of the family.
Because he was doing this and mowing the lawn, and now he can't hold the weed eater because he had bypass surgery.
And folks have to understand that your family doesn't love you because you mow the yard.
It's nice though. I think it's nice.
Yeah.
But no, you're right.
But that's not what makes you you.
Right. No, absolutely not. And everybody's gonna come up on something in life, and it is nice when we have good supportive family, because those caretakers out there are really instrumental in this process too.
Absolutely. Having
that home support and that cheerleader and saying, we're here for you, can really help in recovery.
Absolutely, and a lot of times, if you guys know somebody out there who is a caretaker, make sure and ask how they're doing.
Yes.
A lot of times we ask how the person who had the accident or the stroke or whatever else is doing, but the caretaker bears a lot of burden.
Right.
And it need to be
because
checked on as well.
They love the person the injury happened to. They're grieving also. They're worried and just hate to see their spouse or loved one in pain.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's hard for them too. Okay, well, before we get to your special guest, I would like for you to share with our viewers how you personally live well.
Okay. Well, I'll just be very, very straightforward. My faith is probably first and foremost. My church family, my relationship with the Lord, I consider to be probably the premier thing in my life. It affects everything else. It's the goggles that I look at my world through, and it changes your view of
your
everything.
vision.
And when I see people in those low places in their lives, it reminds me of my responsibility to help them. And it also helps because we see people who don't make it, in this line of work, and so that plays a role. I don't know what I would do if I was helping families who have a loved one who is very weak because of cancer, for example, and they were passing away, and they're being part of that process, and I don't know how you would deal with that if you didn't have that your faith to lean on. The next thing is I think is I think time with my family.
Yeah.
I love spending time with my family, my kids, going to their activities away from work and those kind of things. I really enjoy that. That's a great stress reliever. Exercise as well. And then
what do you do? Do you work out locally? Work out at home?
Yeah, I do mostly at home. I have trails around my property that I run on, and different exercises that I do, and try to practice what I preach to my patients.
Yeah.
And then as far as diet goes, I try to eat good. I mean, I try not to eat as many sweets as I would like to. And
it's hard to do.
It is. And but I look at my kids, and I think, I want to be as healthy as I can be, as long as I can be for them, and so I
model it also.
And to be a good example for them as well,
right?
And to do those kinds of
things.
So.
It seems like you've really thought a lot about your priorities and what you value, and spending time with each of those things that you mentioned, spending time with God, spending time with your family, and taking care of yourself helps you to even be here and be present and live well.
Well, I think that's the point.
Oh.
But Miss Katie, I'd like you to meet somebody that I think will be a good inspiration for folks.
Yes, I'm excited. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, Katie, I'd like for you to meet somebody. This is Denny Smith.
Hi, Denny. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Denny, do you mind if I tell her a little bit about what happened to you?
No, I don't care. No.
Okay. Well, first of all, tell them who your wife is, and everybody at the high school is going to know who she is.
My wife is Leona Smith. She does attendance at the high school.
All right, very good.
Apparently, she is very loved.
Yes. Now, back in December of 2015, Denny was sawing up some wood at his house, trying to make some firewood, and a tree limb was under some tension that he didn't realize. And when he cut that tree limb, the tree limb swung like a giant baseball bat, and it hit him and knocked him about 15 feet. Fractured both of his legs, multiple places. Broke his shoulder blade, some ribs. What else, Denny? Collarbone.
Oh my goodness.
Broke 10 ribs.
10 ribs. I said a couple of ribs.
Were you knocked unconscious?
No, never was unconscious.
Were you alone? Were you alone?
For 3.5 hours.
Oh my goodness.
Until your daughter found you, right?
Yeah, my oldest daughter's one found me.
Oh, how terrifying.
Well, she works for 911 dispatch, so
she knew what to do.
She was as calm as she could be.
Right.
Never panicked.
Oh my goodness. Well, I can see that. The camera may not be able to see, but there are some serious scars on your knees.
Oh, yes.
So you've had how many surgeries?
7.
7.
7 surgeries. Okay. Well, and we thought he was going to have some more, but it looks like he's healing.
Healing good. I've got some things that he could have done different, but as long as I'm happy with him, he's happy with them.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. So to kind of give you an idea, and going back to what we talked about in my story about my sports injury is nothing compared to what Denny has gone through, and that's why I thought he would just be a perfect person for this talk, is because Denny spent how long in a wheelchair?
I have to go back and look.
Months in a wheelchair, non-weight-bearing.
I went 2 months, nearly 2 months with them straight, non-weight bearing.
Yeah, couldn't move them, couldn't do anything. And as I worked with Denny throughout this process, I've never seen him one time outwardly feel sorry for himself. He has pushed himself. He has been very positive and upbeat, and he shows all those characteristics that it takes to get better out of something like this. So we have just in the last few weeks started getting to the point to where he can bear full weight. We're starting to work on some of his balance and agility, where we started at the very beginning just working on a few degrees of motion that he had available. Now we've been able to progress, and through his hard work and the good Lord's healing, we've been able to get him up to a point where he's being very active now.
Wow. Can you tell me a little bit about how you stayed mentally strong during this time?
Well, you have to put yourself in my position that, well, I've got to get better. I've got 2 grandkids that want me to be back and be with them.
Yeah.
And I had an aunt years ago. She lost an arm.
Oh.
And never slowed her down. She done anything she wanted to do.
Wow.
And so
maybe this is a family characteristic of having this willpower.
I look back to that. Well, she could get through that. Hey, I'm eventually going to get healed all the way up.
Wow. So she inspired you, and perhaps you're inspiring some people today hearing your story.
Yes, I never give up. Just appreciate the little things, the little accomplishments you can do.
Yeah.
Like the first time I got to stay home by myself was. People don't think about that.
No, you don't.
And when your spouse finally feels strong enough that you can stay home by yourself, and you don't think about it, but it's hard on your spouse too, because they've seen you go through all this, and they're worried about whether you're ever going to be able to get up and do the things that you used to do.
Right.
So.
Right.
Well, Denny's been a great example of that. I mean, he's just shown such character through the whole process. And now he's probably a little more active than his wife would like him to be.
Yes.
So, all right, very good.
Okay,
Well,
so are we going to see some exercises or him
absolutely.
show off his progress?
Absolutely. We're going to show off some things that we kind of do. You know, we started off doing all things on the table with just little leg lifts and like I said, small movements. But now he's become a lot more active, and we'll kind of show you some of the progression that we've done with him that he's just been doing here lately.
Fantastic.
All right, well, let's take a look at a couple of those things.
Okay.
So some of the things that we've been doing with Denny, because he also has some ankle injuries and things like that, we want to work on the lower extremities. So some things we started off with in the standing things are just like his heel toe raises. So we're going to go up on the toes and back on the heels, trying to activate some of those things.
That's what I'm saying. The balance is still
Still really
Still
hard.
trying to focus on the balance, but that's why you're getting to see the inside of this whole process.
Yeah.
Then we've progressed on to some single leg standing, where he's trying to balance on the one leg. And you got to remember, this is a leg that just a few weeks ago we couldn't bear weight in, and now we're trying to work on the balance. And you can see the shaking in the leg. That's important. That's what we want to see. That's a regaining of what's called proprioception, or knowing what your leg's doing without looking at it. Very, very important when you go back to activities on uneven ground and back to athletics or whatever. So today, you guys get to watch something that I thought we'd get to do. Today's the first day he's going to get to stand on this balance ball. He's never done it before. We're going to try to do it with both feet. We're going to stand up here, and I'm just going to steady him till he gets up there. We're going to find the center balance point, and then we're going to stand on we're trying to simulate the most unstable surface we can think of as we challenge his balance and challenge him up through his core, his hips, his stomach, his back, his ankles are all having to fire to provide that balance.
Yes.
Very good.
You're doing it.
Oh yeah.
That's right. Well, listen. Thank you, Denny.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate you talking to Katie about that. I really do.
You're welcome.
Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, good to meet you too. Thank you guys for tuning in today. I really enjoyed meeting with Travis Smith at Omni Rehab and hearing Denny's inspirational story about he's come from a really tragic accident and has just made remarkable improvements in his life. And I want to encourage you guys to write in to livewell@bledsoe.net and ask questions or tell me things that you'd like to see on air. This week, I hope that you will take time to live well. Thank you.